Well, hopefully we're going to get started shortly. We are recording now, so we've started that just to test it out. So hopefully we'll have other students joining us shortly and we can go ahead on and get started. If not, we'll do a session with us and record that and share it on our lovely website.
And for people who are our attendees, you can submit questions at any point during our conversation. So if you click on the Q&A, you will see there's an opportunity to submit your questions there. We do have a list of questions that people submitted through our RSVP form. So I think we have a lot of different stuff to talk about today. But yeah, like submit whatever items you would like our panelists to discuss. So we have a great panel for you all today. We have Pat Rhodes, who is a career services specialist over in informatics. We also have Alicia, who's an academic advisor for the school. And then we have 3 other stellar panelists. So would you all go ahead and introduce yourselves, tell us about your role, and why you're on this panel today?
I'll go ahead and start.
Perfect.
My name is Savannah Cito. I'm on this panel because I feel like I can be really, really useful to someone that hasn't picked their major and is considering informatics. I am in my last semester of my senior year. I'm about to graduate. I have had to deal with all of the Zoom learning, all of the online crap for a whole year and a half now. And I'm gonna have to do like the weird graduation and everything. And I also was actually successful and just recently getting hired on to a professional role for when I graduate. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. John, do you want to go next?
Sure thing. All right. Yeah, I'm John Lamb, West Indianapolis born and raised. On the PC is where I spent most of my days. I'm an Indianapolis native. I went to Speedway High School. I focused on sports, but I've been a bit of a natural with computers, being a digital native. So supporting desktop systems and navigating file systems is something I've done since I was 10 years old. I had a few desktop support jobs while in school. I wound up at IUPUI as a computer student because it just made the most sense. And now I work at Datarama, which is a Salesforce company. It's a marketing intelligence platform that integrates data sources such as Google Ads, Facebook, Twitter into one source of truth in order to break down the market or the siloed nature of marketing data. So my role is on the Datarama global support team. I work as a tier 1 agent. The highlight for me is that it's all email based. I handle about 4 to 6 cases a day. These range from login issues, which is kind of in that desktop support realm, to FTP connection issues, to discrepancies from data sources versus what's uploaded into our platform. And I found the tech field through what I was told growing up, which is that computer jobs will be in high demand by the time you are ready to start your career. And it just seemed like the right choice for me, being that I grew up alongside the public use of the internet. When I was 10 years old, 56K dial-up internet was pretty much hitting its peak. So I've just found a good fit with tech support, being that it's pretty much just utilizing all of the resources we have available, Google, the rest of the internet, and the team around me.
Very good. My name is Al Carroll. I am the University Activation Senior Manager at TechPoint. TechPoint's a nonprofit organization dedicated to accelerating the growth of the technology ecosystem here in Indiana. I lead our recruitment efforts for our college to career talent programs like Extern. I also lead our career education efforts. I'm getting the word out that you don't necessarily need to know how to code to work for a tech company. That there are tons of opportunities that are out here and available. So I hope to be here. I'm here today to be a resource. I appreciate John mentioning using your resources, the resources that are available to you. I think that this is for folks that are going into informatics, there is a massive community here as it relates to tech, and a lot of great opportunities here for folks to take advantage of. So I'm excited to be here today to tell you more.
So I think the first question that we have is probably for Al and Pat and anyone else who wants to jump in, but people are always asking, what can I do with an informatics degree? I don't know who would like to take that one first.
You looking at me? So much. So much. So there's so many things that you could do with an informatics degree. And for me, it is, I think that too much of the conversation gets caught up in like what you're going to do next in this. Like, I think that for me, an informatics degree is one of the best degrees to get because it immerses you in so much and it teaches you how to learn more. So to me, like that education that you're getting, especially as it relates to technology, is never going to stop. So one of the things that I appreciate the most about the informatics degree at IU is that it continues, it helps people to be continuous learners of technology in meaningful ways. But as far as jobs go, I think there's no limit to what you can do if you do something that you're interested in. So I think that to John's point, right? Like it makes a big difference when you're truly interested in the work that you're doing and what you're learning. To what I tell folks is that I want you to, I don't really care what your major is, as long as you're studying something that makes you want to go to the back of the book. That's what you're getting the most out of your college experience. So I would say to find something that you're interested in and follow that down until to see if it turns into a passion or not.
Yeah. I feel like personally, that's the most amazing thing about informatics too, is that it is just so well-rounded. I came into informatics wanting to be a programmer and actually ended up changing my mind because informatics taught me not just how to code it, but how to connect the data, how to design it, how to make sure people were able to interact with it properly, how to test it, make sure it was running properly. I learned every aspect of what a programmer would do and what everybody else that would connect with that programmer would do. And it ended up taking project management direction. Like I actually want to kind of tell people like, here's what you should code. Yeah, I like that design. Let's do this. The customer wanted this. Let's work with that. So that's the route I'm going. But you could do just software, testing it, installing it, designing it, coding it. There's so many different areas with that. There's also VR and AR technology is coming up huge. Informatics is great for that kind of stuff, for Internet of Things, connecting different technologies to an internet, making them work together. That's really, really common in hospitals and all kinds of jobs and all kinds of fields. 5G is on the rise. Artificial intelligence is something informatics is really, really great at teaching. And then there's like automation, like making the parts work together to actually like build something, having a robotic arm, coding that to continue in an assembly line. It's really just endless. Anything with technology that you could think of, informatics will give you some sort of knowledge on, and you can pick which route you want to go. So once it's given you that broad knowledge of how everything connects, then you can kind of run with it and be like, oh, well, this is really interesting to me. I want to elaborate on that. And then you can take some classes on, oh, I want to learn how to code in this language, and I want to learn how to design for people and how to do human computer interaction, user experience design. It's amazing that it's just so well-rounded. I think that you can really do anything regarding technology with this. IT field, literally anything that you could think of. I think that informatics is just the absolute best for it. And I also wanted to say there's like computer information technology, which was the other major I was considering. It isn't as well-rounded. It was just programming and it was just languages. It had nothing to do with how those languages connected. It had nothing to get data to work with the code that I just created. Informatics has really just, it's opened out so many doors for me. It's taken me on so many branches, and I've learned just so much information. It's been amazing. Highly recommend it.
Me too. Those were two very robust and well-stated answers. I would just like to add that the short answer for me is anything you want, really. You can do just about anything in the technology ecosystem with an informatics degree. And just to add on a little bit more, I just feel like it paves a wider foundation than other tech degrees, more so than CIT and more so than computer science, which will kind of cordon you off into just programming or development.
Right.
Informatics is full of a lot of possibilities.
Pat, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but yeah, those were very thorough answers. And also my next, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. Nothing to add.
My next question was for John and Savannah, like how you chose informatics as opposed to like CIT or computer science. And you already spoke to that a little bit, but do you have any other like tells that informatics was the best fit for you?
Sure, I'll go ahead. All right, Savannah, go ahead. All right. All right.
Okay, you go first. Go first. I just talked.
Sure. All right. So informatics ended up being the right major for me. And I came to that point because I was just the kind of student who didn't know what major to pick once I got to college. I knew that technology, computers, that was the direction I was headed in, but I was a student that would literally scroll through the whole list of every degree offered at IUPUI. And then it wasn't hard to narrow it down to a STEM or an IT degree without much thought. But SOIC and the informatics degree itself really called out to me because it seemed like a fresh and energetic degree path compared to some of the other options on campus. I saw the dynamic nature of the informatics school that offered new media courses, and it seemed to be more geared towards helping humans use computers in a better way instead of development and work with logic that is kind of internalized and harder to collaborate on.
Very cool. I actually found IUPUI through a recruiter that came to my school. She would come to my school like every other week, just to recruit students. And I actually became really close friends with her. And so I was trying to pick between IU and IUPUI, and IUPUI was a much better fit. I really liked the city and just the urban feel to it. I wasn't a huge fan of IU, just didn't really click with me. But I actually knew informatics was what I wanted to do in high school. I was direct admitted, but that's purely because I had tried like tech support, I tried programming, like I had been in web design, different things throughout high school. So I kind of had a feel already that technology was something I wanted to do. I just had no idea what path I wanted to take regarding technology. I had a really like immediate talent and love for web design, but the field was super competitive at the time. And with things like Wix and all kinds of stuff coming out, it's been way harder to compete with that, purely because, you know, like people can do it themselves now. Like they don't need to hire somebody to design their website quite as much anymore. They can just go use a template. So I decided that programming was more of a route I wanted to take, even though I didn't have quite as much of a natural talent with it. And when I met Angela in informatics, she pointed me into this direction and was like, look, this is amazing. You can do programming or web design, or you can just design it, period, whatever you want to do. You can learn it all here. And I really liked the sound of that it was so well-rounded that I could do whatever I wanted, that if programming didn't work out, was too hard, was something that wasn't a good fit, that I could quickly and easily move to something else that was still tech related. It was just a very piece fit for me. It was perfect. And I tried to do a minor in CIT for a while, and it did not go nearly as well as I was hoping or planned. I ended up just sticking to informatics and just the regular bachelor's degree, even though they have an amazing program that I wish I was able to take the opportunity to do, which was that they offered a master's in 5 years. And that was something that in high school, right off the bat, I tried to go for. But then actually Kainos was, they reached out to me and offered to hire me. And I was like, well, I mean, if they're going to hire me with a bachelor's degree, I guess I don't need to go for the extra year for the master's. They're going to hire me right now. So I'm just going for the informatics bachelor's degree. And it has been the most fulfilling, most perfect fit for me. Absolutely. It's amazing.
Thank you. And I am loving seeing your cat jump up on the screen, like our extra panelist.
She's a sweetheart.
So our next question, first of all, I do see the question in the Q&A. I think that's a good one for us to ask towards the end. So I see your question. We're going to hold it for a little bit. But Al, we'll start with you. Students are always asking like where they can actually get career information, like see job titles, see like what are the types of employers. What resources do you recommend for actually getting career information to better understand the industry?
Oh yeah, slam dunk question for me. I appreciate you asking me this one. Techpoint.org I think is a tremendous resource. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I will say that I used it even before I started working here. To get this job, I even had signed up for the TechPoint weekly updates that allow for we send out the job descriptions that are new in the community every week. So you can get that cadence kind of just out in your for you without having to do too much. Additionally, we have a job board that stays pretty up to date. I was actually surprised. I check it just about every day, or at least every time I'm going out to talk to students. There's about 225 different jobs that are up and available right now. About 40 or so with 0 to 2 years of experience. I even saw a couple of internships on there, which doesn't always happen because we typically run an internship program. So now that we're kind of outside of that recruiting window, I think it's not unreasonable to think that you might see some more internships pop up there as well as we get towards the summer. So certainly use TechPoint. There are other resources out there, but I think that as far as a central repository for what's going on here in this community, there's no better place to go. And then as you're using the TechPoint website, don't forget the tech directory. So if you go to the TechPoint index, if you look at our story site, there in the resources section, you'll see TechPoint directory. There are almost 900 different businesses in Indiana that have chosen to have a profile on that tech directory. And what it does is it consolidates whether or not they're hiring. So if you want to work for a specific company, you can go in and see what jobs they're hiring for. If you, and then it also has all of the stories that were written about that company in our community over the last 5 years. So for folks that are trying to do research to prepare for interviews, yeah, I don't think there's any better place to go to kind of just brush up on what's going on in an organization here in town than that TechPoint directory. And you're going to see that, and you're going to see those companies be there for all sorts of organizations, not just what you might think of as traditional tech companies, right? We're talking about 900 different firms that have chosen to do that. So certainly go check that out as you're doing your research.
900 companies, that's crazy. I probably couldn't even name 100. So that's amazing. Pat, do you have any other resources that you recommend students using to get career information?
Yes, they can always reach out to me. One of the things that we do in the Career Services Department is track where our students are interning as well as where they find employment. So if you really want to know where it is that our students are working at or interning, or those employers that connect with us, you can always reach out to me and I can provide you with that data.
There's a lot of undergraduate programs as well, if you wanted me to talk about that. There's tons of things within the informatics program that I used to get me that job with Kainos that have been monumentally helpful, and I am just so glad they offer them, even if it's just virtually right now. One of the first things was the career fairs. When they were in person, I would go to just about everyone, especially the ones that were specifically hosted by SOIC, by the informatics people, and I would go introduce myself, and I would ask everyone questions, starting with like, how do you feel about the culture? Do you like working there? Like really specific things. When I found places that I liked, that those people sounded like they also enjoyed working there, I would go to their information panels. They always have very specific panels for a specific job, and Kainos had one as well. And that's where they go into a lot more detail, specifically about like their culture, about where they're from, where they're based out of, all kinds of information that is really, really useful. And then I had about 5 or so that I really, really liked, and I would just keep in contact with the people I connected with and just keep trying to do that. And then Pat also has these just amazing email chains that have such helpful information about when panels are, when those career fairs are, when internships come up, all kinds of different information. Those were one of the most helpful resources that I had, was actually Pat. And then things was just advisors like Alicia. She actually was one of the people, she has helped me before, helped look at like JAG jobs, all kinds of career type things that that have just been available. My advisor, Melinda, has given me some links to applications she thought I'd be really good for, talked to me about connections that she had that she thought would help. So talk to your advisors, go to career fairs, go to information panels, make connections, and Pat's emails. Definitely get on that email list.
The other one I haven't heard mentioned is LinkedIn, and that one's really powerful because it's a digital resume and a job board. So it's easy to be found. It's easy to find jobs that you're interested in, and the connections can be made pretty quickly. And then I also have to reiterate on the career fairs and TechPoint. TechPoint is a great news source for the local tech ecosystem. They stay on top of pretty much everything that's going on. They have a great job board for career level positions, early career level positions, and beyond that. And they run the externship program, which is Very well known around here, and I would definitely look into it if you haven't yet. And then they also have a sales boot camp for graduates and a web development boot camp that I am actually an alumni of. And that is always hosted at a local university. And if you're interested in web development, that is something to definitely look into. And then I have to say something about the career fairs. Oh, go ahead, Al. What you got?
I would say that the web development program that John went through, we have sunset. But I do actually have a program for you that whoever's on this call today will be the first folks to hear about. So I'll save that for the end. But it's not exclusive or anything. We're very open to everyone. But it is opening today at 4:30. So right at the end of our talk today. So I'm excited to share that with you all as well.
Awesome. All right. And then, yes, go to the career fairs. As an informatics student, you will have access to the IU Bloomington career fairs. You should definitely attend those. And then I just have to give a big shout out to Pat Rose and Stephanie Marshall of the Career Services Department at the Informatics School. They were absolutely monumental in establishing my career after college. And I'd say that their content and their courses and what they're able to provide their students, that's more meaningful to me than a lot of the other curriculum that I was involved in at the Informatics School, just because it's something that you need. We're not really geared into developing our own career out of high school. And then once you get into college level courses, it's really specific to what that teacher wants to teach you. And yes, like if you're taking courses that you're interested in, you are going to build your technical skill set, but you have to have someone to mentor you as you progress to your 400 level classes. And that's what Pat Rhodes is here for. So shout out to Pat Rhodes.
I just gotta say, I couldn't agree with that more. I think that the sentiment that you really can't go through this alone. It's something that if you don't take anything else from the conversation today, hopefully that's what you take, that there are resources that are out there to help you get through it. And it is not a situation for you to go alone by any means. Matter of fact, you're paying for those benefits, right? Like career services is a part of your tuition. And I think it's about the least utilized resource on any given college campuses. And they're worth their weight in gold over there, right? So, and not to mention that your career services are lifetime career services. So you can, not only from when you graduate, but even beyond. So I just say to not wait to start engaging them. These folks know everybody, right? Me and Pat Rose are friends, right? Like that's probably a good person. It's a good person for you to know and get close and be friends with, right? But I think that there's so many things that they can do for you that I don't think that folks really realize or understand until the second semester of their senior year, when it's like, hey, I got to go get a job, right? You really got to start a lot earlier than that to lay the foundation.
Definitely. I started, I would say about really my sophomore years when I started going to the career fairs, quickly realized they were not really trying to hire sophomores. They're looking to hire either graduates or juniors, seniors for intern positions that they can hope to hire when the internship is over. So I would go to the career fairs, kind of establish my position and meet people, get my foot in the door. And that actually is what got me Annie, the lady that hired me at Kainos. She's actually the one, like I met her at a career fair, went to the information panel and had her as like a contact. Like I met her and introduced myself to her, and she sent me, when Kainos started hiring again after COVID, she sent me their opening, their position that was available. And she was like, you're about to graduate, right? So it worked out perfectly. And if not for those career fairs and the information panels and Pat Rhodes's emails about when those are and what's going on, yeah, I would probably not be getting set up to have this job after the semester's over. So I'm very thankful to those, but definitely utilize those resources. They're endlessly helpful and they're so available. You might as well. And definitely start soon. Yeah, I started my sophomore year. It's the best bet. Like just get your foot in the door your sophomore year, introduce yourself a little more your junior year, go for an internship so you have something for your capstone, and then beyond that, try to find something more stable and more permanent.
So you all have been speaking about the power of your network, like going out there, meeting people, using your resources, developing those relationships. And like on the other piece of that, I think network's important, and then also the experiences that you have on your resume that you can articulate in those interviews. So whoever would like to can start with this, but like, how important are those experiences like outside of the classroom to build your skills to be a competitive candidate for when you graduate?
Sure, I have something to say about that. I applied to my first 2 positions out of school with 3 technical support positions, not technical support positions, but desktop support positions. And these were part-time jobs that I held as a student. And I would say I wouldn't have had the opportunities I found if I didn't have something to put on my resume beforehand. And those, those may not be the highest paid part-time jobs in the world, but I was able to work alongside people in the tech business, the industry, the ecosystem, and I was also able to put that on my resume. And if your resume is looking a little sparse, I totally encourage you to look for a part-time job that you feel comfortable with as a student and go for it.
Yeah, just to get anything on your resume, really, even if it's just volunteer work, just camps that you went to, literally anything that shows that you have some sort of experience working with technology, definitely recommended. I do have a friend though that had no experience of any kind, and he still was able to get a job using the resources that we have. You just have to be upfront and honest and just say, I'm not going to lie, I'm working on an informatics degree, but I don't have any experience. I would love to get that experience working with you. So it's not hopeless if you don't have anything on your resume, but it is, try to get stuff on there. It is still important. And when you end up competing is really when it becomes necessary that you have a full resume. I realized I was competing with some like really prestigious schools and people that had lots of work experience and things like that for this job that I had recently been hired at. But I still got the position with only a job out of high school as a tech support agent. My current position working for my parents, which I do, like I install their APIs and like do their website stuff. Like it's not anything huge, but it's still experience and an informatics degree. And that was definitely enough to compete. So you really just need some sort of experience, like in any form of technology that you can. And then this well-rounded degree that shows you've been exposed to lots of things in the technology position.
Personal projects can help a lot too. If
Yes,
you're not
actually, that was a
looking for,
requirement. Yeah, that was one
yeah,
of the requirements in their interview with me. Yeah, was that I had a project ready from school and I had to show it to them over Microsoft Teams and go through it with them and explain what parts of it I did and everything. That's absolutely, yes, that's 100%.
your informatics courses will most definitely,
Yeah, keep all of that stuff.
yeah,
Keep everything you've ever made. It will come in handy.
take the project seriously, no doubt.
I think me and Pat both kind of were like, yeah, but for sure, for me, sorry, I have some toddlers here. For me, it is most important. How do I say this without making it sound like it's not important? No one's ever looked at someone's resume and said, you know what, this is the best resume I've ever seen in my life. I am going to give you a $50,000 job just from what I'm reading, right? Like your resume is supposed to get you into a pile to go in to have a conversation. Yeah. And then for me, interviewing is a skill, right? So it's one of those things that as you do it more often, you get better at it. You can't just kind of expect to walk in and crush it. It's definitely a skill that you have to like practice and work at. As for resumes, what I'd like to see on a resume is that in some way you get what you want to do next and you're moving towards it, even if that path isn't as linear or direct as you might think, right? Because you all have experience. Like, I'm serious. Like, Savannah, I heard you say like you had a friend that graduated and he didn't have any experience. It's like, no, that's not like I appreciate that answer, but it's like that's not true. But yet you all have a ton of experience, right? You have classroom experience, and that you can lean on. And and right now I'll give you the game. If you can take that classroom experience and ask yourself a separate question, and that builds a personal project experience, right? To me, I've heard CEOs say it dozens of times. I'd rather see or hear about the server that you built in your basement than the summer that you worked at McDonald's. And that's not to disparage the fast food industry. It's just to say that like I want to see what you're interested in. And for me as an employer, I know Savannah and John both mentioned career fairs. There's nothing more discouraging as an employer than to meet a student at a career fair and to see a resume and say like, hey, what's the thing on this resume you're the most proud of, and then have no answer, right? Like for someone to look back at me and say like, oh man, I did this stuff once, maybe. It's like, no, like that's not the kind of folks that I want to work with necessarily, right? Like I want to work with someone that's passionate about what they're doing, right? And to the extent that you can demonstrate that, I think that you can do that. You have to use what you have to be able to do that. So for me, I always tell folks to focus on what you have, not what you don't, right? And then do what you can with what you have where you are, right? So you have to use what you have to make it happen.
Yeah, those are, I also like how you all spoke to like the informatics curriculum as so many projects built in, and even, you know, showcasing those as your work experiences. So another question we had is like, how do you find what your thing is? Because you said you can do so much stuff with an informatics degree. So like maybe for Savannah or John, how did you go about really finding where your niche was?
Right.
I got
Yeah.
this one actually.
Okay, here, well, let me go first because you'll be able to follow up way better than I can. I just wanted to say that it's okay if you don't find your niche. To be honest with you, I don't know if I've necessarily found it either. I found something that I am talented at and that I like doing because I can contribute to people directly and quickly. That's kind of fulfilling for me, but I wouldn't say that technical support is my niche in the long run. And I just want you to know that even if you don't have something, an area that you are specializing in right now, that's okay. You can find a job out of school that is an early career level position without having specialized in anything. It is totally possible. Just keep a positive mindset and use the resources available to you. But on the other hand, you know, some students find their niche and they go after it, like Savannah. So let's hear it.
Yeah. So like I said, in high school, I kind of realized I had like technology overall was kind of a niche for me. I really liked working with Word and Excel, and then into web design, and then tried to go into programming. Discovered programming wasn't quite as much of a niche. Like actual programming languages are very difficult to learn. They can be challenging, but I still loved the logic behind it and just loved the feel of coding. So I knew that informatics was what I wanted to do because it had that broad technology kind of feel to it. And what it did for me was really, it showed me everything. I had no choice but to find what my niche was because I had to learn everything. I had to learn about data. I had to learn about programming. I had to learn about web design, and I had to learn about user experience design. So because I had to do all of those things and I was exposed to everything, it came naturally. I knew, oh, okay, well, data's really cool. I'm actually pretty good at that. I was passing all those classes really well. Like, I might be able to do something with that, kind of keep that in my pocket. It's kind of boring though, maybe something else. Oh, okay, well, programming's fun. I like connecting the data to the program, but I don't know, I don't want to sit behind a
Savannah? Savannah, did we lose you? Well, while we're waiting for her to reconnect, hopefully, Alicia, are you available? Because I wanted to see if you could speak to our programming with our curriculum with the informatics program to basically touch on what Savannah was saying on how it touches on a lot of areas, and that'll help you find exactly where you want to go. Okay, Savannah, you're back. You're on mute.
Goodness. Okay. Zoom crashed completely. COVID. Anyway, what was the last thing that you guys had heard?
Keeping data as a skill in your pocket.
Yeah. So you're exposed to everything, and that way you're able to find what you're truly talented at. And even if you find out you're talented at something, but it isn't something that you would love doing at work every day, you can find something related to that that's similar. That's how I decided I want to be like more of a project manager, was because I went from being a full stack developer to realizing I didn't want to be behind a desk all day and I wanted to actually communicate with the customers. And I took more of my specialization, the experience design route. And now I'm going to go more towards telling someone like, this is what I want you to code. The customer wants the design like this. I like your prototype, but we need to add this. So I get to more delegate rather than kind of like starting out as like data or something else, even though I have a talent for those. Like I picked something I'm good at that I would want to go to work and do every day.
Okay.
And yeah, that's been really nice that informatics just exposes you to everything. Whether you like it or not, you get to learn how everything connects and works together. And it's in the middle of it, it can be kind of difficult, especially if you don't have like the brain for coding or anything like that. Like you still have to take an HTML class, something like that, like a basic coding class. But it's great because then, especially for me, when I do delegate to somebody, I get to say, code it like this, and this section of your code is wrong or needs updated, or along those lines. So I can still understand and talk to other people, even if that's not the section that I do. That's nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Alicia, are you able to talk to?
Yes,
Thank you.
I can. So I think a lot of students come in with a really specific, some students come in with a really specific plan about what they want to do. Other students come in with sort of no plan and they feel overwhelmed. But even students with a very specific plan often end up changing their mind. I can't tell you how many freshmen I hear say business. I want to specialize in business because I want to be a business analyst. But then they sort of start digging in. Maybe they take an accounting class and then say like, oh, business. And while plenty of students do specialize in business, there's the other side of it. There's the analytics. You can go through computer science for that. You can go through informatics for that. So there are all of these different avenues. What I really like about the informatics program is you still have quite a few electives on top of having the specialization. So you can always start down a path like Savannah did, take a class and then say, nope, not for me. Then that's an elective and we move on to something else. And so that's something we tend to start in your sophomore year. If I have students who come in and say, I know specifically this is what I want to do. Sometimes even the first semester in your sophomore year, we can start down one of those paths just to see if it's the right fit. Especially if students have a plan that might involve something different, like a different math, we can start it early. But what's nice is that there's a lot of flexibility. A lot of our students end up specializing in, kind of like Savannah talked about, human-computer interaction, and that can technically be done in a semester. So a lot of the specializations, which is any minor certificate on campus, can be done within just a few semesters. So, if you do decide to change your mind, I can't tell you how many students change their mind in their senior year or, late in junior year. And it's okay because most of them are pretty flexible. Occasionally we do have where it's problematic and some summer classes can fix it. But it's okay to not know what you're doing, and it's okay to not know what you're doing afterward. Like John said, sometimes students go down a path, they realize they're very into database management, but they already got human computer interaction. And so we just try to fill their electives with those kinds of classes because it's the work that you can present. Like everyone said, it's the projects that you have. So we try to get you into as many of the classes that fit what you're interested in, so that at the end, even if you don't have a credential in it, that's okay. It's also what can you show and what can you do and how can you present yourself to employers through your work.
And Carly, I'd just like to add one thing on that, is that is the reason why internships are highly recommended. It gives you the opportunity to decide if this is something you really want to do, whether you do one internship or two. I would say definitely take advantage of internship opportunities and get the feel for, hey, is this something I think I can see myself doing? If not, you've learned that. During school, it was applied to your plan of study, and you really didn't lose anything. Hopefully you still will be able to gain some knowledge from that, but then more importantly, you will decide that this is not the road you want to take, do an additional internship, that by the time you graduate, you will go into a place where you can see yourself, at least for a little bit, not that it's your niche forever, but that eventually it'll be a starting place, and then you can just go from there.
Yeah, I do think that's definitely one of the most unique parts about the informatics major on campus is what Alicia was saying, that minor, that ability to like really specialize or get in the weeds on a topic that you're interested in. And then Pat, like the experiential piece, like, yes, you are never going to have another time in your life when you can try something for 3 months and then walk away from it, right? Like if you do that in the professional world, I don't know if anyone's going to want to hire you. right?
Doesn't look as
so-
good.
So let's go to our question in the Q&A. And maybe this is for people further along in their careers with some tenure. If you are to go back in 5 years, like what would you change about your career path? John, I don't know if you want to start with that question.
I'd like to defer to someone else for the time being. I will certainly think about it for the next several moments here.
I'm not sure that anything that I would have done differently 5 years ago would have had me in a different spot than I'm in today. I feel very strong that I'm where I'm supposed to be, doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing. I take great comfort in that. That being said, I think that if I'm looking back 5 years, I think I say a lot. We're all friends here, so I'll be transparent. I think I say a lot that I deal with some issues that I dealt with 5 years ago, that I knew were issues then, and I'm only getting to right now. So I think that in some ways I wish I would have had the courage of my conviction earlier. I think that in some ways that some of the issues and things that I'm dealing with now wouldn't have continued to be an issue if I had brought them up and brought them forward a little earlier. And what I say to that is that, like, if you get an opportunity to be in the room, right, like you should, like, you deserve to be there, right? If you get an opportunity to show up and be a part of something, like, take all of what that opportunity is and show up in it, right? Especially if you get an opportunity to sit on a panel like this, if you get an opportunity to sit on a board or anything like that of any importance at your job, even, right? Like, if you have something to say or you see something wrong, go ahead and say it. Not that I think that the issues and challenges that I'm talking about right now could have been fixed if I had just talked, but we certainly could have been working on them, longer down the road instead of starting 5 years. So it's going to take some years to do. So I know that's kind of vague, but hopefully that answers the question.
I have something. Okay, it's warning me my connection is unstable, so hopefully it doesn't cut me off again. But 5 years ago would have been when I was a senior in high school. So that's an interesting question for me, specifically because I am almost done with college and everything. So I feel 100% I picked the right major. I knew exactly what I was doing. I found that I loved web design, was really good at it. Knew right off the bat, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make that much money doing this. What about if I tweaked it, did this? I was on the right path. The biggest thing I would change hit when I was a junior, and it happened because of COVID. I was in honors. I tried to pick up a minor. I was trying to do the 5-year master's, and I was still doing a specialization in human-computer interaction. That's way too much. That is way too much. Don't overload yourself. That is 100% what I would change if I could go back 5 years. Now, really, it didn't do that much damage. I'm still graduating in 4 years. But if I had done it properly, I probably could have done that 5-year master's, still gotten hired to Kane. Everything still worked out great. I still was offered a really, really wonderful salary and really awesome benefits. And I would not change the path that I took at all. But that, I almost burnt myself out my junior year, like almost got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to drop out. And it was mostly just because COVID had hit and nobody was prepared, and none of my teachers had their classes online, and everything, got way too chaotic. But yeah, I would definitely just say, like, try not to overload yourself too much. Take on what you can. Remember that things are going to get a little bit harder. So if they seem easy, they're naturally going to get harder. I was like, this is too easy. I'm bored. Let's try to add on another thing. And then when everything got harder, it got too hard and it was way too much. So I would definitely just say, like, take it slower and, like, go for what you're going for. And if you feel like you really can handle more, then maybe add like one thing, like maybe be like, okay, I can do the master's program, but probably not master's and honors. And then also trying to pick up a minor, like pick something and try to stick to it. But the nice thing about informatics is that if you do make a mistake or something like that happens, you're not set back very far. You don't have to change your whole major. You can just kind of change your point of focus within that major. And that was huge for me. I really feel like I would have had to completely start over if I wasn't an informatics student, and I would have had to go a completely different direction with my life. But it really worked out, and I learned a lot from that. So
I have 2 things to add. The first one is that it's okay to make mistakes because they're certainly going to happen. And with that said, people are forgiving and you will learn from those mistakes. So just be aware of that and keep pushing forward, even though you may have some discouraging moments, because those discouraging moments will ultimately transition to learning moments and you will do better.
It's not a
This-
mistake if you learn.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And the second point is that while you're in school, you need to make the most of the opportunities that you have being in school. A lot of the time, for me, I was focused on what am I going to do when I get out of school? And really, I should have been concentrating on making relationships with friends and professors and building a bit of a pre-professional network and not submitting myself to the stress of wondering what is going on after I get out of school. We're all here to get a degree, and that is the most important thing. And what is going to matter 5 years down the road from now is what you learned in school about communication and working on teams, because that's what's going to correlate into the ability to learn what you need to know in your roles moving forward out of school.
I think listening to your answers have made me think a little bit deeper about my answer, and I think that it all goes back to developing a growth mindset. And I'm sitting here with both what John and Savannah are saying, and it's like, man, I think even not being willing to say something, I think a lot of not wanting to speak up is that unwillingness to fail, or not recognizing that that there was something to learn from that authenticity in the moment. And that there's an ability for us to grow. But I think that when I was coming out of school, or at least when I was transitioning into this job, it was just like this need to prove that I knew what I was talking about, when I didn't know what I was talking about. I had no idea what I was talking about. You just started in this job, you don't know nothing, right? Like, why are you under so much pressure to try to show that you have it all figured out when you don't? And in reality, no one really expects you to. So I think that to the extent that we can get to that I have been able to develop a growth mindset, and I'm not all the way there, right? There's still some things that are fixed in my for me, but I mean, I think that I am learning more, that as I show up more authentically, more good things happen, and at work. So I think that's one I wish I had known earlier.
I feel like we need a podcast to talk about life lessons and philosophy. I'm loving this. So we are approaching the end of our hour with 12 minutes left. If students have any additional questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A. But for a closing question, I want to know, what is like one piece of advice or one takeaway that you have for students who are considering a career in informatics? Al, you can go first. I see the hand.
Do not self-select yourself out of anything that you want to do. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Never self-select yourself out of something that you want to do. So apply to everything that is interesting to you. If you want to do it, put yourself out there. People from IUPUI get into some of the most prestigious programs in the country. Okay, like you are like, there's not a who do you think you are kind of moment, right? Like, who do you think you're not, right? You're in the room with a group of people that with a degree. I think that really does prepare you for so much out in this world. So if you're sitting there wondering, like, do I have enough? Am I going to be competitive? Yes. Okay. Yes, you are enough. Put yourself out there. Let us tell you no. Okay, never tell yourself no. You're not picking, right? You don't know what the requirements are, right? Your only job is to put your best foot forward and to show up as best you can, and the rest will take care of itself. But like, don't put yourself out there. Please make sure that you apply.
Right. Well, the other thing is, the worst they can say is no. They're not gonna,
right?
Yeah, they're not gonna like come at you and embarrass you about it. They're just gonna be like, sorry, not the right fit, and then you go try something else. There is no reason not to shoot your shot. 100%. I completely agree with that. I would say the biggest thing for informatics for me was, you might not feel like everything's relevant, but it is. Every single thing I learned was relevant. It all came back. It all applied to itself. I found out one class related to another class related to another. So I just always pay attention. It is all relevant. Be a sponge. Soak up as much knowledge as you can. It will apply and you will use it.
Sven is right. If you let it, everything you learn in your informatics degree will run parallel to each other. all those bits of knowledge in one course, you will find applicable to a course 2 semesters down the road. That is 100% true. And to reiterate on what Al and Savannah already said, no's will make you stronger. When someone tells you no, it's easy to be discouraged by that, but it's also going to make you stronger. I promise you. Just you can't, finding your spot in the tech ecosystem, your first career position, is something that you have to be relentlessly in pursuit of. So those no's, they will make you stronger, and you just can't stop. With that said, oh man, I'm losing my second point I wanted to say about that. What Al said. Your degree here in the informatics school is highly competitive. Do not take that for granted.
Yeah, I was shocked at what a competitive edge IUPUI informatics degree gave me. I mean, it just says IU. It is seen as an IU informatics degree, and it's up there. Like, we are definitely a great school. It is a wonderful program, and I can tell from an outside perspective that other people think that it is as prestigious as everything else, and it does give you a competitive edge. I would just also say, like, start early. Definitely start looking for your jobs early, because yeah, you are going to rack up those no's, especially when you start early, because they're going to tell you, no, we're looking for juniors and seniors. No, we're looking for not interns, but graduates. You use that to fuel you and keep looking, and eventually you find the best fit. But yeah, start early, keep doing it, and be a sponge.
Right. And then another thing, no, do not take it as personal.
Yeah.
It's not anything against you. Realize that a no at one place could be a yes someplace else. We have employers all the time that are coming to our school looking for the skill set that our informatics students have. So yes, I know it's very valuable. I know it's something that you will find jobs in. Our informatics students, for the most part, 98% of them will have a full-time job prior to graduating, as you just heard with Savannah.
Yeah,
these employers are, I'm sorry?
So that's amazing. I didn't know that.
I am a wealth of knowledge. That's the reason why it's so important that you connect with the Career Services Department.
Yeah.
Because we collect that data. The students, we require an internship for our informatics students. So oftentimes the internship, those students find employment there. So
Yeah.
with the informatics program, if someone says, no, it's not personal, remember that. Just know that that's not the place, but that degree will eventually take you where you'll be able to thrive and be successful. So don't give up, stay encouraged, continue to apply, network, utilize your faculty, your staff members. We're here to help you. And you'll be amazed at how many resources that people networking that they have. You want to take advantage of that as soon and as often as possible. The more people you know, the easier it's going to be. And more importantly, be willing to take feedback. No one's perfect. We all can grow. We all can be better. But take that feedback from your instructor while you're within the classroom. Don't wait until you get with Al and then he has to call me and ask me, what is going on with your graduates? Why don't they know this? Take that feedback now so that you will be successful once you get out. And you'll be able to, I'm telling you, really take off with your informatics degree.
I do have an opportunity that I wanted to plug before we head out. I know everybody's been talking about opportunities to practice, opportunities for skills, and that's exactly what we've got. So TechPoint last summer stood up what we called the TechPoint SOS Challenge, Summer Opportunity for Students. It was originally built to sit between, or to help for folks that lost internships due to COVID-19. This year we have supercharged it and really come back and are going to offer that program again for folks. And that's an opportunity for you to demonstrate your skills with a portfolio-worthy project that you can always go back and you can put on your resume, that you can always go back to and say, like, hey, this is what I did with the summer of 2021. So if you don't feel like you are confident that you can get an internship here with the time that we have left, or if you are just, you just want an opportunity that's something else, right? It's truly carving out something between a hackathon and an internship. So I recognize that it's new and different, but we're going to put you on a 6-person team, an interdisciplinary team, and load you up with some entrepreneurship training and really kind of let you loose to build a solution for folks that exist in these spaces. So for me, it was a tremendous opportunity for folks last year. I think that in planning for it now this year, I think that we're a little bit more prepared than we were building the program in flight with COVID last time around. So I'm really excited about it. So I hope that you all will check that out. The applications are going to go live here in about 4 minutes. But I'm going to give you the link right now that is live. So you all are the first ones to see it. So please do, and that is for everyone, sophomores, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, all the way up through master's students. We are really trying to make sure that you have that there's no excuse for you to have nothing to do this summer, right? So please come spend some time with us and develop your skills.
Highly
That's
encouraging.
awesome. Oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say I highly encourage it. TechPoint is the real deal when it comes to professional development.
And we've had many students participate even last summer. So excellent program. Al, I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing it again.
Thanks,
Kudos.
Pat. Oh, and also, so again, and I should mention that it's a huge program. So again, if you heard something earlier, and you didn't hear me earlier and said don't self-select yourself out, there's 500 spots that we're prepared to fund again for this program. So again, no excuse. Not that it's not competitive, but it's not competitive. Okay, go ahead and put yourself out there. We are trying to make sure that this is structured in a way that you can take advantage of it. So please do apply.
Well, a huge virtual round of applause for all of our panelists today for sharing their information and giving us a sneak peek of something that's going live in 2 minutes. Thank you, Al. So if there are any additional questions, go ahead and stick them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you all for being here today. I enjoyed the conversation. So, yay.
Thanks to everyone. I greatly appreciate your time. To everyone who